Thanks everybody for joining again today. As I said, this is one of my favorite days because I love this class. For those of you online, please do not forget to check in. For those of you in the room and online, there's a mid-program survey we are hoping or encouraging all of you to do. Please, please, please fill out the survey. We'd love your feedback. And then one more item before we get started. And I think Cara dropped the link in Slack, but don't forget to sign up for your pitch times on Slack. The link is there. We encourage everybody to, this is a safe place. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun to do it. So meanwhile, I'm saying that, but I'm not going to be doing it. But no, I swear, it's going to be a lot of fun. I promise. And it's a safe place. So, you know that everybody's kind of in the same place and we're all going to do it. And, you know, if you need alcohol, I have that for you. Yeah, the Kirkland vodka. I will bring you a bottle of the Kirkland vodka. And we'll also have food and stuff like that too. Okay. Let's see. So today's class is refine, pre-launch, building the organization and team. So this, besides the brand stuff, is something that I love. I love building teams. I love recruiting. I love finding the right fit for an organization or a team or, you know, or a certain role. This is something that I get a lot of joy out of. I know it's weird, but I really, really do. This is so. Ask questions. This is definitely a part of my wheelhouse. So refine, building the organization and team, points to ponder, capabilities and gaps, your owner, manager, leader role, hiring motivated people, organization culture, and advisors. So this is interesting, right? So building your team is always going to be a little tricky, I think, at the beginning because you are creating your own company. So I think what I do is, and I've heard this from several other people, know what you love to do, know what you hate to do, and hire somebody that's really good at what you hate to do. To help you. And I've heard this from several, and it's the funniest thing because I've heard this from more than one entrepreneur that's, you know, that says, I love being able to create or, you know, grow my product or my service or my ideas. But I really hate the operation side. Like I hate you know, trying to figure out what the processes are going to look like, trying to figure all that out or what the finances are. I just really want somebody that could just do all of that. You know, I can focus on selling and, well, hire somebody that loves to do what you hate, right? But also somebody that's good at it, not just because they love it, also somebody that's good at it. I'd also try to hire somebody that has some kind of experience in what you're doing. That's also going to be a huge benefit for you. So don't just hire somebody that you're like, okay, they love, you know, what I hate to do. Do your research. I strongly advise use LinkedIn before you hire anybody. Go to their profile. There's a lot of different things on a LinkedIn profile that'll really help you hire as well. If you scroll down to the bottom of a profile, you'll also see any of the feedback, or I forgot what it's called, but pretty much, you know, past employees that have left comments, recommendations. So different recommendations from different people, and skills as well. You know, have, if they've chosen skills, have other people, you know, said, yes, they're good at the skill. And they can by, I forgot what it is, but they can pretty much go on the profile and say, yes, you know, I've worked with this person. I know they're great at the skill. And the reason I know that is, fun fact, I hired a third-party recruiter, a reverse recruiter when I was looking for a job because I got tired of submitting applications. It was so frustrating. But they're the ones that walked me through it, right? They said a lot of people need to look at that. They don't pay attention to that. Really take a look, know what you're getting into, get the feedback from there, right? Take a look at what their gaps are. Why was there that gap in their, you know, their employment history? take a look at some of the other companies that they worked for, to help understand, do they have experience directly related to what your company is doing. And that's across the board. That's going to be from your leader all the way down to, any other employees that you hire. LinkedIn is a really, really good tool. I strongly advise, anybody that's doing hiring to use it. Huh? No, but I should be getting paid for it. Yeah, but endorsements, yeah. But yeah, they get endorsed. Thank you, Maggie. So they're endorsements at the bottom where you list your skills and then people can endorse them. Yeah. Yeah, LinkedIn. I need you to, and Kirkland, I need to get paid here. But I will take vodka as payment. Maybe. or just a piece of the business. Vodka and mixers. There you go. Refine, filling management roles beyond your leadership. What skills, knowledge, and expertise do you bring to the venture? And where are you weak and blind spots that could create operational voids within the business? So again, kind of like I said before, if you hate doing it, you're also probably not good at it. So hire somebody that does and is good at it. So look for key skills, look beyond friends and family, look for shared values and vision, be able to articulate your vision, look for outside resources when necessary. I've hired a family member. I strongly advise against it. It didn't go well. And I've also recommended a family member to get hired at a certain place. He was definitely fired within 3 months, not because of me, but because he felt very entitled because of it. So all this to say, although you love your family, make sure that it's somebody you can work with and may not take it, won't take advantage of you if you decide to. Meanwhile, you guys, well, you and Jeff are like totally not even in the, it's you guys work so well together. It's crazy. Yes. Europe, yeah. So I think a part of what we're trying to do here is, well, for this program, is really help you identify those blind spots too, which is why we've taken you through a lot of different things that maybe you haven't thought about. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure you're going to know your blind spots until you're actually in your business, right? Trying to do it. Unless you're going to hire people within your first year, I think that's pretty rare. That you have entrepreneurs when they first do their startups actually hiring somebody or employees their first year, right?
So I just said by networking with other entrepreneurs, you can help to identify your blind spots. And in the mentorship programs too, you have a mentor that's going to help you along your route, like not just on a random Thursday, but somebody that you develop a relationship with, they can help you with that kind of help where you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So Audrey is our mentor girl. If you guys looking for mentorship, drop it in the Slack. But yeah, I think Maggie put it way better than I could have. But you'll figure it out, right? Like either by people in your circle, people that have done it. And I think for most people, if you talk to any entrepreneur that has gone through it, they'll say, oh, well, here were my most obvious blind spots. If it's product or something like that, I try to find somebody in that realm. If it's tech, I try to find somebody that's worked in that. Try to find a business or a mentor that has worked or has started a company that's really similar to yours to help you identify those spots. But yeah, okay. So refine management team and compensation. Ooh, this is a tricky one. So direct compensation is base pay, which is wages and salary. Incentives are commissions. What is that? Piece rate bonuses, stock options, profit sharing, gains sharing. Indirect compensation, pay for time not worked, vacations, breaks, holidays, sick days, jury duty. which I don't think it's a choice, wish it was. Insurance plans like medical, dental, life, security plans, pension, social security, disability insurance, employee services like educational assistance, recreation programs, and food services. As you start to look at especially your direct compensation, I want you to know that depending on where you're hiring, the salary looks very different, right? I mean, even within states, the salary looks very different. So somewhere in rural Nevada, if you're planning on hiring somebody that's remote work, will look very different than somebody in Las Vegas. So do a salary search based on where you live. As you grow your company and your expertise is going to change a little bit, that may change too. But as you're going and if you're trying to find somebody local, know what that salary looks like. Know what, you know, what your comparisons are for that. And there's a lot of different websites. Literally, you can just Google it and it'll pull up a range. And that's always interesting. So remote work is also kind of tricky, right? Remote work, a lot of remote workers will expect the same salary pretty much across the board. Again, that's a little tricky. If you ever look at any large organization, Deloitte, and Deloitte's a good example of that, that will have, if you go on their job post, say on LinkedIn or something, they'll give you a salary range, which is broken down by A, B, and C. A is places like California, New York. B is Miami, places like that. And then C are here. We fall into the C range because of our cost of living. I think Arizona is another one. And salary is really strongly based off of cost of living in the areas. So make sure you do your research before you decide what you're going to pay people or what the offer is going to be.
You can Google GSA per diem table. And even though we're talking salaries, not per diems, what it does though is you can see, okay, if I was on business and I traveled to San Francisco, the per diem would be this compared to traveling to Boise, and can kind of give you a feel from market to market as to what the going rate might be.
That's a good point. And there are a lot of other sites like that. Salary.com is another good one. I've used it a few times, but I think you have to sign up for it to actually get the really, really good information.
And Glassdoor.
Yeah, and Glassdoor. Glassdoor has a lot. So a lot of good resources. So please, yes, use all of them. Actually, it's probably a good idea to use all of them because somewhere in there lies the truth, right? I've been on Glassdoor and Salary and Googled it, and like they're way off sometimes. But close enough that in there somewhere in the middle is where you need to land, right? Okay. Wait, other compensation. Fun fact, Maggie and I just learned this, what is it, 2 months ago? Henderson Chamber of Commerce, is it? You can register with them and get medical for small businesses. Don't know what the cost is, don't know what that looks like. I would strongly recommend if you're going to hire anybody, if you're a registered business, reach out to them because they've worked it out somehow, which is absolutely amazing that they even did this. It sounded like it took a few years and a lot of work, but if you do, you can use their medical for your employees. Reach out to them for more information. And then what else on here? Okay, so incentives like commissions, piece rate bonuses, stock options, profit sharing, gain sharing. And Maggie would know the answer to this because I'm curious, how many, as a new entrepreneur, how many people actually offer stock options or options with the company?
So this is interesting because John was just asking about that.
Perfect.
So along your journey, you guys are still really early. And so your first money in is usually going to be friends and family. And then you may get an angel group. But before you get too far down the path with venture capital, you're actually going to have to set aside a certain number of shares for an employee stock option pool. And when you have venture coming in, they're going to make sure that you carve out your percentage of what you and your co-founders own and put it into that stock before they discuss what percentage they want for their investment.
Interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so it's not until you really start hiring and you're trying to attract people to work for you for slightly less than the going market rate, you can offer them the stock options. And that is one of the benefits that a startup has, is that they can do that trade-off between, if you really are a believer in what this business is, then you will work for slightly less than what you can get, or maybe in some cases a lot less than what you could get in the open market, because they're going to incentivize you with a large number of stock options.
Well, there you go. Live and learn. I didn't even know that.
But it's a complicated process, and it depends on the investment that you've taken along the way. But there is going to come that time when a venture capitalist is going to say, we're not talking valuation or anything until you set aside that pool, and then we'll talk.
Do they have, is there a certain percentage, or just does it depend on?
You know, it's funny. Do you remember CID? So CID
do.
won our Angel NV investment, not this past year, but the year before. So Angel NV 2. And they came in where everybody that was working for them were co-founders. They hadn't started hiring others, but they knew that they were going to need to. So they had set aside their stock option pool. And so what it amounted to was like every co-owner, co-founder had given a certain percentage of his stock up to create this pool for their hires. So
And there's no set percentage, right? Or
no.
Okay. I'm assuming that the VC would kind of give you those terms, or is it something you need to?
It's something that you should be talking to your lawyer about.
Do you remember how I said hire somebody that doesn't?
Who knows this stuff? Yeah.
Okay, so, and then of course, security plans, pension, social security, disability. I think that'll come a little later as you guys grow. Commissions, that's always interesting. That's, I think, heavily probably sales based. Bonuses are always good. I mean, depending how well you do, maybe set up a bonus if you guys do a great year, you know. But these are all things to think about as you evolve, right? And this is, Maggie just pointed something else out that you'll now have to throw in the mix of understanding as you guys grow as well. Any questions before we go to the next?
I did have a question. I'm sorry. My name is Laura.
Hi, Laura.
There was something that you mentioned about if you have a small business that you can get insurance for your employee.
Yes, that's Henderson Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Reach out to them. I don't have a lot of the information. We were in a meeting with them a few months ago when we found out ourselves. And they've worked really hard to put it together. It sounds like, you know, it's an amazing program. So if you call them, they'll be able to provide you more information.
I appreciate that.
No problem. Okay. So recruiting and hiring, don't hire for experience alone. Strong cultural fit is at least as important. I will tell you, I've hired a lot of people throughout my career. Actually, since my early 20s, I've always done some kind of recruiting and hiring. I have hired less experienced people just because of a culture fit. So what that means is I have somebody who's very qualified, and then I have another candidate that may be just a little less qualified, but they're a fit in my culture. So I know my team, I know what their personalities are, I know how they work, right? So I also know, and I take the time to know everybody that I work with. That's a part of my leadership. I want to know each individual person, so I'll do a lot of one-on-ones and a lot of different conversations. And you know, most of my one-on-ones are 15 minutes of me just catching up with them on life, and then the other 30 minutes of, okay, let's talk about your goals and let's talk about how we get you to where you want to be. But during that time and spending that time with them, and I even do working sessions, if I know I have a project I need to work with them on, I'll actually do a working session so me and my employee can plan together. But all that time is also me getting to know my employee, building that culture, being able to create it. I've done weird things like virtual bingo or, you know, things like that with my team. And it helps me understand well, I have all these different games that I play, but it helps me understand who needs to work on team building versus who, it's really interesting to see the personalities. All of that to say, I hire to make sure that it's a culture fit, that when I hire this person, they're not going to disrupt the way my team works. They'll help improve it by bringing new ideas, new, fresh thoughts, but they're also going to be a fit for my team. I'm never going to hire somebody that my team doesn't really, I don't want to say like, but will struggle to work with. To be honest with you, almost every hire that I've had let my team interview for a panel. So I also advise that if you bring somebody on and you already have a team, let them do a panel interview with your team. You'll get some good feedback. And they'll ask some questions maybe that you haven't thought of. But I strongly believe that, right, is if I have somebody who's qualified that I know will work well with my team versus somebody that I know will learn and grow and be an amazing fit for my team and, really be able to help them move forward, that's the person I'm going to hire. Okay, so attracting qualified applicants, quality of life, challenging work and learning opportunities, good management, compensation, and a sense of purpose. Recruiting, employee referrals, university networks, placement agencies, investors, online listings. Digital recruiting, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, Shag a Job or Snag a Job. Ooh. I promise you I didn't drink any of that, Kirkland. And expanded talent pools. So the cool thing about most of these, and I've done it on LinkedIn, not so much Indeed and ZipRecruiter, but since they're all competitors, I promise you they have something similar. You can actually go in and you guys ever see the open to work? So if you go on LinkedIn, there's a little circle. You can select when you go on LinkedIn that says open to work. All of those people are now put into a pool. So LinkedIn actually will find that, and then they'll have you do a whole bunch of things like picking your top skills. And I think it'll only let you pick 5 skills, but it will also go back to the skills that you put on but the top 5 skills are the positions that you want. From there, it collects all this data, and then you can go in and search by the skills that you want. It'll pull up a list of people that are available to work now, that are open to work and looking for a job. From there, again, you can reach out to them directly on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm hiring for a role, would love to meet with you. And I'm sure they all have it. And then from there is where I then it helps you, right? It helps you filter through all of the other stuff and then find the person that you want with the skills that you want. The rest is up to you to determine whether or not they're a right fit. But even then, always go back to whatever their profile is to make sure they actually have experience in what they're putting in there. I've caught that too. It's been interesting. So I'm pretty sure they all have something similar to that, especially Indeed and LinkedIn. Oh, what did I just do? We're going to hope that goes away.
Are you touching things?
I am. And a little screen popped out.
Oh, what is the setting?
It was a little like.
Oh, but it's gone away.
Yeah, it did. I'm not touching it again. Sorry. Refine, recruiting and hiring. So applicants, resumes are not legal documents, applicants are. Screening, quick call, interviewing, behavior-based questions, bias, be aware of a tendency towards ourselves or one of us. References, always check. And I'll say this, I've had more than one boss say this to me, and my boss recently said this to me, my current boss, is he hires smart people. He's like, I'm never the smartest person in the room, but the people that I hire, I think are. So his, and I've done this, I've hired people that are from all different, skill sets, everything. And I'll tell you one thing, most of those people will probably be smarter than I'll ever be, but I'm the smart one for hiring them and making sure they're on my team. Long story shorter, I need to stop doing long stories, is your strongest skill is going to be hiring the right team to push you forward. So depending on what that skill is, make sure that you do your reference checks, make sure that you look at the skills, make sure you go on their profile, make sure you do the research to make sure that you have done everything possible in your power to know that they have experience in the skill that you're looking for. And hire people that you believe are smarter than you. I'm not saying you guys aren't smart, but I'm just saying hire people that you believe are smarter than you, especially in a certain skill or, you know, or area. Because that team that you build will ultimately push you forward or will bring you down. And I always look for people that I think, you know, my skill is building a team. My skill is building a team to make sure that anything that I'm doing is successful. But I don't treat my team like a team. The one thing I'll always tell them is I'm a part of the team. I'm not your boss. We're a part of the team. We're going to figure this out together, right? And no, these are the people that you need to figure it out together with. So you're going to have to really want to figure it out with them. So make the right choice when you hire. It's also it's not easy letting go of somebody too, just because of not even just the legal stuff, just because of personal relationships and everything else like that. You end up building those relationships with the people you work for. You might really like somebody that you see in an interview, but are they a right fit for the role that you want? Great, you made a new friend, right? But can they do the job that you want them to do? And then if they can't, what happens the day where you have to say, okay, this person isn't driving my business forward? What do? I have to let them go. I really like them, but I have to let them go. So try to avoid even getting into that situation. A quick call, have somebody else do it too. So what I'm going to tell you is, so for me, I look for personality, right? I look for somebody who's going to be a good fit for my team. But I also know other people that will look for more technical. I want to know that you have an understanding of technology, so I'll ask you questions specifically related to the programs that I'm working with or the software. But what I also want to know is, and I do this as well, and right now I use Hirsch, who I work with, because I'm actually hiring for a role, to do the technical side, because he's very, very technical. I'm technical, but not as, like, I can't tell you how to write a script to, you know, or how to architect Jira, even though I use Jira often and I'm an admin. And I can't tell you, you know, what Script Runner does or how that works and what's going to happen when I migrate it over from Jira Server to Jira Cloud. I know it doesn't relate well, but, you know, or how to get past that. Hirsch is my counterpart. He's not on my team. He has a whole other team, but I trust him in asking very technical questions to know if the person is the right fit. Know what you're good at and what you can identify. Great, they have a great personality. It looks like they have the, you know, the skills that I want. Sounds like it. Now find somebody else to interview them. Find somebody else to interview them that's a bit more technical. If it's technology, find somebody else that will interview them. If it's event management, right? See if there's time management or something that, you know, somebody else can do. It's always find somebody else to do the interview. You want to make sure you get that other opinion. Behavior-based questions. Oh, these are fun. So I hate those questions though. They're also very awkward. Like, what do you think you need to work on? I don't know how to answer that, but a lot of different companies, what they do now, and they have some free versions too, is personality tests, which I think are fun. I get my team to do it just for the hell of it, just because it entertains me to know what their personalities are like. But you can also do that. And a lot of employers are doing that now. They'll have you take your Myers-Briggs, or they'll have you take your colors, some form of test like that to kind of see where you fit in, right? And I think for most of us, well, a lot of those tests actually even have, if they know your personality, you've already done it, how this person will work with your personality. So what will you need to do as their boss to either coach them, to drive them forward? Do they work better in team environments versus by themselves? Are they more tech driven or more, what's the word for it? Emotional. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, emotional IQ. Thank you. Or emotional. Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's a word. But yeah. So it's all those different things that you'd want to understand. So look for the free version if you really want to do it. You know, it's a fun thing to do. But if you don't, that's fine too. But like I said, just get somebody else to interview. No. Of course, I have a microphone.
I did the Myers-Briggs you talked about when I was in college, back in the Stone Age. And then I was in a management training seminar where they wanted us to do the full thing 25 to 30 years later.
Yeah.
And mine had changed.
Did it change completely?
Not completely, but two of the four
Oh, interesting.
had changed. And so it was very interesting to now go back and see what all the analysis is and just, okay, you're now ENTJ. What does that mean you are? And to go through all that and catch myself at like, oh yeah, that is me.
Yeah.
That is me.
I made my mom take it. So mine changed by a letter. So I've taken it 3 times. Twice it was the same, and then it changed by 1 letter almost 7 years later. No, but I'll find them and I'll drop them in the chats. Is one? Oh, I did 16 personalities too. Yeah. I'm a, what do you call it? I'm an antagonist. So I share my personality with Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Malala, and what's his name from, oh man, what's the Keanu Reeves movie? Morpheus. I share it with Morpheus. Morpheus has my personality. But yeah, and they're really fun. It's really fun to do. Actually, you guys should all do it. I'm going to drop it in there. I want you guys all to do it because I want to know what everybody's personality is.
There's some people online that are saying what they are.
Oh, yeah, just unmute yourself.
John is an ENTJ.
Yeah.
And then let's see. David is an ENFJ.
That's somewhere.
Is this personality test like bidet test?
What's the day test?
Well, they spelled it bidet. I don't know. There's Enneagram, which is a whole other thing. And it teaches people how to deal with the other personality types.
That's cool.
When you know what your coworkers or you know what your employees kind of, you know, and again, it's fun, but it also can help you to know this is a person I can be very direct with. In fact, that's my, John and the other will verify, we ENTJs, we want direct feedback. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't dance around it. Tell me what is needed or what needs to be changed, you know, whatever it is. But not everybody likes to get feedback that way.
No, I do
So,
that. And that's actually
yeah,
true.
the same.
There's a lot of fun. If anybody's wondering what sandwich is, it's the good, the need some work, and then the more good. But a lot of my employees, I have to do that. A lot of them, as soon as I say the good, then I add, they don't want to hear the rest of it. They just want to know what they need to work on. So yes, I am an ENFJ. So, but I like the fluffy stuff.
Does the E stand for extrovert?
Probably.
It's
he is extrovert.
okay.
And
Yeah, but you guys could spend a whole class on this.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm like, we should totally do it. Okay, guys, we're doing this. I'm going to drop it in the Slack. We're going to take our personality quizzes. If you haven't already, if you have, I mean, you don't have to, but I'd like to know what everybody is. That would be fun. Okay, now I got all excited. Crap. Now I'm derailed. Okay, so yeah, behavior-based questions. Make something fun of it. If you guys can do a quiz like that, those are always fun. Bias, beware of tendency towards ourselves or one of us. I try to find the people that are completely opposite of me, just because I feel like naturally I'm going to kind of, you know, want to hire somebody that has a similar personality, or as soon as I see a lot of me, I'm like, okay, yeah, they might be a great fit, and I'll put them in the bucket of, you know, people I want to hire if they're qualified. But I also don't want to have that bias, right? I don't want to like somebody because I'm like, oh, they remind me of me when I was young, or, you know, I don't want to do that. I want to hire them because they're going to be a good fit for my team, and that, you know, they're qualified for the job. Maybe not as qualified as somebody else, but my big thing is there are some qualifications there and they're going to be a good fit for my team. And then always check references. So most companies now will do a background check, and they'll hire a third party to run, making sure that you're verifying that you've worked at a place for as long as you did, or you've actually worked there, or this last place I had to, oh, actually, the government's a good example. I literally had to get my high school diploma from Canada to verify that I graduated before they'd hire me. Otherwise, it took me 3 weeks to finally reach somebody and get it mailed over. But until I gave it to them, that was when I was officially hired. Right now, you guys can't afford to do that. So do the reference checks, call. Here's a trick for you guys. And I know the city of Las Vegas does this. And I think it's a law that past employers can't really say anything negative about past employees. But the one question you always ask, would you rehire them, or are they eligible for rehire? If they say no, then you have your answer, right? On how I still wouldn't put a lot of, I'd still try to keep an open mind because you don't know exactly what happened during that time. But ask the question, are they eligible for rehire? Right? Just so you know, you can't say, oh, were they fired? Or, did they quit? You can't ask those questions. Well, you can't, they're not going to answer them, but you can ask, are they eligible? Okay. Understand how to build your organization structure and team to meet your current and future company objectives. Reflect on these questions. How will you find out your manager, or how will you fill out your management team? How might your role change as the business evolves? How can you hire the best people for your team? What sort of outside resources should you bring in and when? Do you need an advisory board or a board of directors? I have a friend named Faye who does something very interesting. She is what you call a fractional COO, which means her business is literally set up so that she doesn't work for one company full time. She's hired by other companies that are mainly startups and entrepreneurs just to build out a piece or the process or something that they need her to work on. There's a lot of different, people like that that you can find on LinkedIn, online, that will help you do that. Be able to build out one specific set. If you're not ready to hire somebody, it's always something to think about. Once your team gets large enough, I strongly advise you hire somebody that is also HR. It's important. We call them the people team these days because it's nice. And so I do strongly advise that that should be somewhere in your top priorities. But I really think, if you're going to start somewhere, it's probably going to be operations as one of your top hires, somebody that knows, operations, how to build processes, how to really be able to streamline what you do. How might your role change as the business evolves? Let's go back to the other thing. Let's hire somebody that does what you hate, right? So that way you can focus on what you love to do. So how might your role change as the business evolves? You have other people doing the stuff. Now you can sell. You can sell your business.
Yes, you need to sell.
Yeah. And Maggie, I think I heard this from you. The best salesperson is going to be you, because nobody's going to be as passionate about your service or product than the individual who built it. I think you told me that, right?
I harp on the need for the founder to do sales.
Yeah.
Like, some people even say the first 5 million of sales. I just say the first 30 sales. 5 million, that's more than 30, unless you're in enterprise software.
I need to be an enterprise software.
Yeah.
But so you guys get the idea, right? Like hire people to really focus on growing your business and the operations side. And you guys continue to get your customers, sell, get investors, focus on that.
And the vision for your company.
And the vision.
The CEO really needs to have the vision.
That's a good point, because they know the vision better than anybody.
You hope.
Yeah. Me, I'd be like, hire somebody to do my vision. hire, or how can you hire the best people for your team? I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. I guess it would depend on what your organization or your company looks like. I think the best people for your team is going to depend on what your skill set is versus, you know, what somebody else, you know, can bring to the table to help your team grow. I think it's different with every business, every person, every leader. That's really for you to decide. So what sort of outside resources should you bring in and when? One of them that I talked about is the fractional COO. There's also, I think UNLV does that, where you can hire somebody that's a student that does tech to help you build, right? Is that UNLV?
There's probably a way to do that. But there's a STEM program now within UNLV. And so if you are starting a business that has to do with any kind of technology or math or science, they actually have funding to support that person that you hire 100%. So we used to have a program like that up at UNR. And at first it was, you could hire one person on this PAC internship grant program, and they would pay the individual. They would give you a lump sum. And so you just had to do some reporting in the beginning and in the end and write a job description so that they would have saleable skills when they came out of it. And so UNLV adopted something. It's even more technical than, like, you could do any kind of position up at UNR. But this is strictly technical here, and they are paying the interns about 20 bucks an hour, I think. It might even be more than that. And so you just have to qualify as a business and then fill out the job description and work with them. And they are in need of companies to hire these people. So if you do have a need, you should definitely look into that. And Jada, you don't have a company that you can do this with, but I want you to talk with Leith Martin and see if he can help you to still get into this program, because you need a technical co-founder. And so you need somebody who is willing to go through this whole process with you and be a co-founder with you, not somebody that you can pay. So let's have you talk to Leith for that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. And online, let's see, I don't mean to ignore the people online. Lawrence hired interns in New York for music video and some studio work from time to time. It was free to him and they got college credits. Let me tell you that the business environment now, it's not cool to not pay your interns. It's just not cool. The only people who get away with it are politicians in Washington, because they think it's so amazing to be working in a seat of power, and they don't pay people.
Oh,
yeah, so
that's so nice.
No.
Those are the one people that should be paying. But okay, so at least that gives you an idea. You need to get the information. Okay, good. But yeah, so there are a lot of different options out there right now to be able to do that, I'm sure.
Right. And Rakshana mentioned the fractional COO. There are definitely fractional CFOs.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what you're doing with your finances, you can hire somebody who does this fractionally for you. They may do it for a salary, they may do it for a fee, they may do it for a combination of a fee and a percentage. So a lot of times if you can offer them percentages of your company, you can lower the fee tremendously.
You know what's interesting now that you say that? I actually saw it on LinkedIn. As you can tell, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Let's not talk about it. But I actually saw somebody post on LinkedIn that they were looking for a CEO, but rather than paying them, they'd be a partner in what their business was. Which is interesting. I saw that and I was like, oh, well, that's fascinating. Still needed certain qualifications, still needed, you know, to have different kinds of experience, still needed, they were looking for somebody who's been a CEO in a tech company. But it was just interesting to me that they posted that. And there was a lot of people actually engaging, saying, can you tell me more? Or, you know, even people saying, here's my email address, email me. I'd like to know more. But that's also another option, right? When you guys are ready, is maybe just seeing somebody, or, you know, finding a co-founder with you that has that skill set. It feels like, you know, over the last, 5 to 10 years, startups have this whole new world of, options to be able to find fractional or just different kinds of ways to bring people onto their team, which I think is really cool. Okay, do you need this is a Maggie question. Do you need an advisory board or a board of directors?
At some point you will. So as you're starting off, if you have a co-founder, you may have a 3-member board that's made up of you and your co-founder and maybe an advisor, maybe your first investor. Again, venture capital or even angel groups will come in and say, if we're investing this much in you, we want a seat on the board. And they're doing that to protect their investment so that they have a say in big decisions. They should not be involved in your day-to-day operations. And so depending on how you craft your board of directors rules, it may be that if you're spending over X amount, you may need to get board approval. But you asked for, like, how do you know where your blind spots are? And having advisors can help with that, especially if they're in your industry and experts in your industry. I discount a lot of the decks that I see that have like 4 or 5 advisors, because I'm pretty sure they're not talking to them on a regular basis. They have just asked them if they can put them on their advisory board, and the people say yes, and then they never hear from them again. So be careful with your board of advisors and your directors. There will come a time as you progress along your journey and you're taking investment where you're going to have to give up seats. And then after a while, when you take a seed round or maybe an A round, and you may have to go from 3 to 5 directors. You may have to add more people. But generally speaking, angels want to see that there's 2 company representatives, 2 investor representatives, and 1 neutral party. Or keeping that ratio as the board grows.
I have no idea about the board of directors thing. All I know is what Maggie told me earlier today. You just don't want to hear from them. If you don't hear from them, you're fine. So Maggie's definitely the one that's a lot more experienced with that. I know we have our own board with StartUpNV, but I've met them. They're all great people. So I've actually worked with other boards that weren't so well. I'll tell you guys a story later. I'm not gonna record that story. Good, it's on here. So employees versus contractors, legals, accounting, bookkeeping, marketing, business development, and HR. So here are going to be a lot of your, a lot of things to think about. Employees versus contractors, it's pretty simple. Contractors are, or employees are W-2s, contractors are 1099, is that what it's called? 1099, so they're their own entity, they're their own business. They have to pay their own taxes, you won't have to pay for them. Employees, of course, you have to pay their taxes, you're accountable for them, they are your employees. Legal. Almost every company that I've started with in the last maybe 5 years have had every employee sign some sort of non-disclosure agreement, and then some sort of agreement that says if you have an idea or an invention for the company while you're working there, it belongs to them. You have no right to it. It was done during work time. They paid you to do it. You can't come back and sue them later. Think about those two. Think about it. I get why it's done. I feel like for you guys more than anything while you're starting your business, especially if you have an idea or some kind of proprietary product or service that that you're working on, this is something you really need to think about. I mean, you can go on, what is it, LegalZoom, that has standard NDAs that you can have for employees. So a lot of these documents you can pretty much just go online and they're already created, and you just need to print it out and have them sign it. Now I'm thinking, would they need a notary? I don't think so. But yes, so think about that. Think about, you know, having, if they, because you're a startup and if they're really in technology is a good example, if they're helping you build something, have them sign that, saying that, you know, any idea or any invention that has happened during work time, work hours, they can't come back to get any kind of money from you later, that it was done while they were paid for that time. So I've had to sign both. They're starting to become really common throughout different organizations. So somebody think about their accounting and bookkeeping, man, just hire a fractional CFO, hire an accounting team. I mean, first start off with QuickBooks, get a program that knows how to do it for you. But as you grow, just
Okay, but
hire a
even
team.
then, you have to set up QuickBooks right, or else
There you
it's
go.
really hard to unravel.
What maybe say, or just hire a fractional CFO. Marketing is something you're going to really need to focus on. I think we've covered this during a few different classes. Hire somebody that knows how to do SEO. Hire somebody that knows, you know, how to optimize your profile. Did you know, I found something out. So I worked for a company for about, well, a short period of time. And they did landing pages, and I managed the project management team. So I managed the PMO office. Did you know that people are trained to navigate a web page or a landing page a certain way? And if it's too complicated for them to figure out, the bounce rate goes up. I never knew that until I actually was a part of it. And then I'm learning all these things and I'm like, that's a thing? They're like, yeah, think about it. Every time you have gone onto a website, the menu's been almost always to the top left, right? And I'm like, yeah, they said people are used to seeing it there. They've trained you to look for the menu there. So the likelihood of you know, trying to find it somewhere else, yeah, your bounce rate, if it's too hard for them to navigate, they're just going to bounce, which is interesting. I never knew that. Hire somebody that knows, right, for your marketing. Just putting that out there. Business development, I feel like it's sales, but this can be a lot of different things. Sales, or I think it's sales. Maggie, you have a different theory about business development, right?
Oh, business development
I'm like,
is not sales.
See?
Sales is closing deals. Business development is creating partnerships and working with other organizations so that you are better together. That is business development.
Building a partnership. I like that. So if you're in tech, there's business development. If you're selling something,
It's sales.
there's sales. Like if you're just selling a product, do you really need business? I guess that's interesting. See, now I'm talking out loud, but I'm like, depending on what it is, you're going to have one or the other, not necessarily both, right?
Okay, so a friend of mine started a company in Texas.
Yeah.
And so he's in the business of making it easy to acquire like recreational vehicles and ATVs and all of that kind of fun stuff. But who makes a natural partner for that? Insurance companies. And so he partners with insurance companies. So it exposes his company to a wider base of potential customers because he's partnered with the insurance companies. And then the insurance companies have this other resource for their outdoorsy people. So you just have to think about what would be a value add to your business and then try to gain a partner in that field.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. I know business development as in partners when, say, customer success, right? If you're in tech, you're selling your product to a company, and as they grow, and you want to build that relationship to make sure that your product offerings grow with them and they buy more licenses and things like that. But I didn't even think about it from that standpoint. Interesting. Learn something new every day. HR will get you guys out of trouble. So HR is really, really important. I think you can actually hire HR companies just as fractional as well. That will handle most of your HR for you, help coach you along the way if you need to have some tough conversations, help you with ethics, different things like that. I strongly advise once you start hiring, this is something that is going to be important so you avoid a lawsuit later. Okay,
You can, yeah, you can outsource any of those things there. And I have a book recommendation for you, and you're going to think I'm crazy because it's not necessarily for an entrepreneur, but Tim Ferriss wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And his premise is there are a lot of services out there that can do these tedious tasks that you don't want to do. And so the more that you kind of outsource this stuff, then all you really have to do is manage these other people that are doing things. So bookkeeping, HR, marketing, social media marketing, you can easily contract that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, until you get big enough that, you know, you actually want to build your own team, but that's probably going to be what, like 100 employees?
Well, it depends. It depends on what turns out to be the most important thing to do. Like
Yeah.
legal, HR, those are back office things. And if you're a technology company and you need to work on your product and you need to work on sales, those other things have to happen, but you don't have to do them.
Who wants to do them? Trust me, you don't want to do them. I've had HR conversations on the giving end, not the receiving. They weren't fun. Okay, so 2 types of boards. If you guys have questions about this, Maggie's your girl. Told her before we got in here. Maggie, I'll read it, but questions are probably going to be you because I have no idea. So 2 types of boards. So advisory. Entrepreneurs use advisory boards in many ways, but the ultimate goal is to get ideas, advice, and direction from experts. Advisory board members may be scientific or technology experts, bankers, marketing consultants, industry experts, financial consultants, customers, or other established entrepreneurs. Anyone you feel can add to your wealth of knowledge. Maggie, did you want add anything to the advisory part?
No.
Okay, perfect. Directors, board of directors are much more formal than advisory boards. If a company is organized as a corporation, it must have a board of directors. The board makes big picture decisions and elects the officers. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the company and shareholders. Want to add anything on that?
Yeah, so if you are a corporation, you do have to have them. You have to have at least an annual meeting. It has to be recorded. I mean, not like on tape, but you have to have minutes of your meeting. You have to follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh, Robert's Rules of Order.
You've heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Like
That's
you
why
have to
I'm like,
nominate somebody, you have to second it, you have to vote on it,
okay.
and that has to be recorded in your minutes for when you elect your
That's
people.
what that's called. I get it, but I didn't know there was a name for it.
Oh,
Okay.
And then there's the really anal people who know all the rules. Like you didn't do that the right way. Like we don't want to worry about those people. And then in the state of Nevada, every year with Silver Flume, with the state, you have to update who your officers are. If you're a
I've heard of
corporation.
Silver Flume. Okay, I didn't know that. Robert's Rules. I'm going to remember that though.
But everybody thinks there's like 4 positions on a board. I think there's actually only 2 that are actually required. But Silver Flume will tell you what's actually required. You have to have a president. You probably have to have a secretary, the one who's recording those minutes.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary to have a treasurer. I don't think it's necessary to have a vice president. And one person can fill more than one role, but I don't think that one person can be both the president and the secretary.
That would be interesting. So if it's just one person that's the president and they're the advisory board and they want to no longer want you to be CEO, they can't just make that happen, right?
Well, you conflated the advisory board and the directors. So what's your question?
I'll ask it later.
Okay.
Because I need to form it in my head. Okay. So board governance bylaws. Most boards outline a set of bylaws, like Maggie just said, that specifically lay out responsibilities and powers. Bylaws should clearly state who has the ultimate authority for making decisions about the company, whether the advice of the board is binding, and whether things like compensation or employment decisions are the board's responsibilities or fall with the company's management team. The bylaw should also include term limits for board members by rotating board members on and off the board. You ensure an always fresh perspective. Any advice on rotating board members?
It's a good practice. I think in this state, you actually have to, when you file your articles of incorporation to be a corporation, you also have to have bylaws. So Most boards outline a set of bylaws. I know we couldn't get our incorporation and nonprofit status, which is actually a federal thing, without the bylaws.
Interesting.
Yes, but rotating board members on and off the board is, you know, when you're a small company,
You don't need to.
it's just a pain.
Yeah.
But as you get bigger, it's really good practice.
I can see how that would benefit a large company. Okay. Thank you. So at this point, we can open it up for questions. Please unmute yourself if you have a question. Anybody in the room? Questions? No questions. Oh, mentor's tomorrow night. Do we know?
I think it's Cassia Hine Peters
Let me see.
and Tom Yates again. Ken will be here. Who's the third person?
I don't know if they posted it or not. No, they haven't posted it.
Yeah, it's on the website. You know what? I have a computer.
Well, Maggie's looking that up. Mid-program survey, please, if you haven't done it, we would really love your feedback. Please do the survey, please check in. For some odd reason, I thought it was on Slack. I thought I saw it on Slack.
Oh, Jennifer Ferris. So Jennifer Ferris is perfect for this because she comes from the world of HR.
Oh,
So any of your questions that you have around hiring and policies and stuff like that, she will be here. Neil Wu Becker is listed as coming, but he has had something else come up, so he will not be here tomorrow.
any questions online or any other questions from the room?
So it's Brandon, right?
Yes.
Brandon is asking, besides the pitch deck, is there another place where we should be keeping all of our numbers? And yes, you should be, because you will live in this at some points in time. And I think it's not next week. Yeah, I think it's the last week in November. Is that my week? Yeah, it is. So on during startup week, I will be delivering the class on pitch decks. And I spend more time talking about SOM than I ever have in the past, because I just usually gloss over it. We tell people who send decks to us, your SOM, your obtainable market, needs to be a projection of your sales for a time-bound period, either 3 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years. And so in order to get to SOM, you are doing a tremendous amount of financial work because you're figuring out what your cost of goods sold is. You have to be guessing what your projected revenue is going to be. But in 3 to 5 years, you also have to know what's your second market, what's your third market, what is going to determine when you move into that second or third market. And so in order to figure out what your roadmap is for your markets, you need to do tremendous amounts of research on the different possibilities for your second market. So as you go into your second market, can I go into a new market by just spending on advertising, or do I have to hire people there? If I have to hire people there, is it a different state? Is it going to add to my burden for taxes and filing? Like, what is it going to cost to have people in a new location? Maybe you don't need to do a new location. Maybe your sales are going to dictate that, oh, we've got a cluster of people buying our product in this area. Let's just experiment and throw some money at social media there. Okay, but what does social media cost there? It doesn't cost the same in each market. So this is the kind of research that you have to do. So SOM is really hard because you have to project forward. You have to think, when do I have to hire more people? If I go to a new market, will I have to have rent there? Will I have to have distribution there? So you just have to do a lot of fantasy, but trying to figure out and be real with yourself about what it's going to cost to go into these other markets for your time-bound period. And then the projection is just revenue. But you need to know for you what the expense is going to be, so you know which is going to be the most efficient second market to go into. So yes, you should be having, you know, whole files on the stuff that you're working on to try to figure this out.
I dropped a video online of Maggie Sailing doing Tam Sam Som. She's done a lot of them. It's on our YouTube channel. That's not the only video. If you guys want to watch it, it's in the Slack. So go to the Slack. You'll see it. It's about 30 minutes. Maggie's probably one of the very few that can break it down in a way that makes sense. Trust me, more than one person has told me that. So just if you guys want to take a look at that, it'll explain it. But there are a few other videos that are on our YouTube channel that go over Tam Sam Som.
And Cara did drop the Pitch Decks 101 into the Slack channel today so that you guys don't have to wait until right before our demo day. You can get a head start on it now. And I'm telling you, you should have started 3 months ago on the Tam Sam Som stuff. But,
The pitch,
but do what you can.
and then I think you have there's a class in there on our YouTube about pitch decks too, right? Yeah. There's a few.
Yeah, so the various times that we do Angel NV Bootcamp and the Incubate Vegas stuff. So this stuff is repeated. And so sometimes I'm better than others giving the class.
She's always good.
Well, yeah, but there are different lengths of the videos. So the one that Cara dropped in the Slack channel is the second shortest one because it gives more examples. The first time I did it, I didn't have as many examples of good slides and bad slides, and how you can remake a really complicated slide into a simple slide that gets the message across better. So the second shortest one is good, but the other ones that are longer, like an hour and a half, it's because it includes the questions and answers for the after the presentation part.
And there are some pitches in there where you guys will get to see people pitch, and there's some really good feedback from the organization StartUpNV's Jeff, Maggie, Leith, I believe, also gives feedback on some. So you actually can hear from pitch days. We do record if we're allowed to, and share them on our YouTube as well. Are there any companies? We're not going to put anybody on blast, but any companies you feel that we have a recording of that did really well with their pitch?
Gosh, yes, we've had some really great pitches. Okay, well, CID. So CID actually pitched to Fund NV, our pre-seed fund, before they were part of Angel NV. And so their pitch was very good before that. And then if you want to see some really great pitches, you can watch the finale event from Angel NV 3. So there's 6 or 7 companies that pitch. And so by that time, after we've been working with them for several months, they've really gotten it down.
Yeah, great examples to watch, just to get some feedback and maybe some inspiration and some thoughts around how to do it. But there's a lot of information on our YouTube, guys. There's a lot of videos that we share. Of course, we make sure if there are pitches that the founders have allowed us to before we share it on YouTube. But take the time to browse through there. There's, like Maggie said, a lot of our classes, we do repeat them for Angel NV and Incubate NV and Incubate Vegas. And so you'll find a lot of information in there from other programs that will really, really help you. And scroll through it. You might see something that, I haven't mentioned that you're like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. Or you may just be like, oh, I love Maggie. I'm just going to watch videos of Maggie. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions online or from in the room anymore before we wrap up for tonight? No? Anybody online?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm actually just like my mind is now spinning on the Tom Sam. I can't even know how to say it.
Sam.
Thank you. So I've been working on my PowerPoint presentation, and so I'm going back, and it's like I have sizable markets, but that's not it. So how would I break? I know you just said it, but how would I break that down if I haven't even started sales for the product? Like, how do you get away from your expected sizable market and then make the realistic jump from there?
So your first two numbers are research. So your total market, that is whatever segment of, the general marketplace you're in.
Yeah.
And then your available market is usually a subset, it's always a subset of the total, but it's a more reasonable goal. So if you have captured a global figure for TAM, then your SAM can be the United States. Or if you're a very localized business, it can be your county or even just your city. It depends on what type of product or service you have, what's reasonable to be your available market. You're never going to capture 100% of the available market, let alone total, like never. And then because those are research numbers, that's what the current spend is in those areas. So when it comes to SOM, it's really personalized to you and your business and what you think you can do. And so you have to make projections. You have to guess, but you want to be reasonable about the way that you're framing things.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like I'm almost there because I do have all the research and I did size it by global to who's buying in America. And then I brought it all the way down to Clark County. But that number that's in Clark County is still huge. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, it's 196 million, like in Clark County alone. And I'll give explanation behind that when we give our presentations. So I guess now I'll have to see how much of that I can project for myself.
Okay, so
I just don't know how to calculate that.
2.5 million people in Las Vegas. So if you think you have 196 million of something, then each person is buying hundreds of them. That does not seem realistic to me.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but
exactly. And I don't want to stretch this into like a mini presentation here.
okay.
So I definitely need to dissect that last number. So
Right. So, but think about, it's hard to get the first sale and it's hard to get the first 30 sales. So what are you going to do to get those sales? How many people are you going to have to talk to convince them to make that first buy? And then, right. And so think that way, be realistic in that way. If it's a not very expensive item and there's a serious need for it, then you're going to have an easier time selling them, but you still are going to have to reach a lot of people to grow your sales.
Yeah.
And are you going to do that by word of mouth, or are you going to do it through social media?
I mean, I've grown my own business to the tune of about 300 clients as a massage therapist over the past decade. So I know how to grow organically and use social media to kind of leverage, the market, my market size as a person. So as soon as my thing I'm struggling with is how much does it cost to manufacture one of this product? And then that will determine. So that's kind of where I'm stuck. And you've actually given me some very nice information before when you told me about injectable plastic as a possible thing. And I was like, oh yeah, that would bring down the cost of it, a lot. So, but my key thing that I'm taking away from what you're saying right now is focus on what I can project to make on those first 30 to 50 sales. Like that really has just kind of just made a click, and I'm going to go with that.
Okay, good. It's tough. It's not easy.
Thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome.
That is all. Have a good night. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. No, somebody give us some.